filmed a video about this about maybe a year and a bit ago now, and I deleted it because, I don't know, it was a bit unpolished. Nothing has changed there, but essentially it has been, I think now 2.5 years, maybe even 3, that I've been running on a dumb phone. And I know that there's currently a big push towards moving off of being so connected to our devices, so I thought it'd be cool and relevant to share some of the things that I have been experienced since moving to a dumb phone. I think the first thing that I need to do is disclose the fact that I am not completely off the grid. I have this ridiculously large iPad, and that is what I do all my banking, my Google Mapsing, emailing, etc., so forth, so on, and watching shows and YouTube, etc. But I predominantly, all my calls and texts go through this, and whenever I'm outside of the house I only have this, so I'm pretty cut off from the internet, which has been honestly, now it feels normal. It would feel weird to be super connected to everything all the time, but at first it took a bit of adjusting. I would say the adjustment period goes for about a week. It took me about a week, and then I started to feel the actual change and started to become more accustomed to being more aware of my surroundings, and in situations where I typically would turn to my phone to keep me occupied, I began to seek outside or other alternative sources of stimulation, such as either looking around at what was going on around me if I was at a bus stop, or I would bring a book with me and read instead if I was on the bus, or in social situations. I think that's where it's the most interesting, is that especially someone with social anxiety, I think I had a tendency to, in group settings, if there's a lull or if you're waiting for somebody to arrive in a public space, you would turn to your phone and scroll mindlessly just to pass the time. Obviously I can't do that anymore, so now I'm forced to either engage with the people around me or retreat into my own head and think or find something to occupy myself, which I say forced to. I don't think that's the right choice of word. I think it's I get to, and I'm compelled to, instead of just relying on a screen to keep me occupied. And I think the one thing that's probably the most notable now, especially after being off of a device for so long, is that I immediately notice now that everybody, well, not everybody, but probably 90% of people are always looking at their phones in public settings when they're on their own. There's very few occasions where there will be majority of people just engaging with each other versus people who are looking at their screens. And I find that now to be very strange, which obviously I never used to, because I used to be that person, but now the more I think about it, it's very weird. It's very anti-social, I think, where the way society has become, which is ironic given, and there's a lot of discourse around this, how the fact social media is supposed to be social media, but it's actually driving more of a divide between people. I think to get into the actual benefits that I've noticed since using a dumb phone, the main ones would be clarity of thought. I've noticed that I'm able to articulate and well, first, One, I think a lot more during the day because I'm not turning to external sources of the stimulation. I have to find that within when I'm on my own. So I'm thinking a lot more, and because of that I think I have a better understanding of self, and I'm able to articulate the way that I feel and things that I'm experiencing a lot better because I understand them better. So that's one thing. Second is I'm turning to alternative forms of entertainment when I'm on the go. So I've been reading much more, which in turn has enhanced my comprehension, my articulation, my just overall knowledge, which has been great, as opposed to just mindlessly scrolling through reels. I would say the thing that I probably miss the most would be having access to music streaming all the time. I do have a Discman, a CD player that I take with me, but I'm limited to whatever CDs I have with me on the day. And also if that decides to die, then I have no music, which can be quite frustrating at times. But again, it just turns to entertaining myself inside my own head. I would say that it also forces me to be a lot more social because I was never a big texter to begin with, but now texting anything more than a few words takes forever because of pushing the buttons. I really thought I would get faster, but it's been so long and my speed has stayed the same, which is kind of embarrassing and unfortunate, but that's okay. So usually I just resort to calling people, and surprisingly I haven't had any complaints about the frequency at which I call people. All of my friends have sort of embraced the fact that if they need to speak to me, it's got to be most of the time over call. And then my family have always been used to that because I've always preferred to call my parents versus texting them. I think that just is because they're an older generation. So that's been a big change. I think what I have noticed is when I go overseas for travel or interstate, I do have a smartphone that I keep in storage so that I can navigate correctly and be in contact, and if anything goes wrong, it's always better to have a smartphone in foreign environments. And when I do switch back in those times, I notice that I'm still very quickly absorbed back into the online space. I like to, outside of those times, have all my social media, aside from YouTube, deleted to help, because I still have an iPad. It helps me to just completely stay off of that space, but I like to use it while traveling and intermittently throughout the year to stay in touch with particular people that I don't have contact with elsewhere. And I noticed that when I switch over to a smartphone whilst traveling, I very quickly turn back to old habits. Even though it's been so long that I've been off of being inundated and immersed in that environment, I still get drawn back in. And I think that really highlights how well designed those apps are to steal away your attention and hold it. It is designed to be addictive, and I think we cannot get down on ourselves for falling into spending lots of time on those apps, because that is how they were built and what they're intended for. I think the only solution that I've found is completely deleting them. That's been the most effective, and I find immediate mental relief from deleting them. So my most recent bout, I think it's been about a month since I deleted my social media, because I had it while I was in South Korea and then deleted it shortly after I got back. And as soon as I deleted it, I felt so much better mentally, and I had so much more time on my hands. And it's only after deleting it that that I personally have found that I'm able to understand that there is no benefit to using it that outweighs the detriment that it causes my mental health and the amount of time that gets poured into it. I would much rather forego whatever social connection, whatever exposure through like sharing photos, etc., garners for mental peace. I think there's no, there, it's not worth it. It's hard. I don't think I can delete it entirely, and obviously I could, but I don't. There's a hesitation to it, and I don't think that I will, because I do appreciate and value the ability and the use of it to document memories and to be a place where it's curated and stored for future reference, because I think that's quite cool to be able to have something to go back and look at years later and see essentially the highlight reel of your life. I think that whilst it's probably not the best thing to be consuming in the moment, especially such an influx of everybody else's highlights, it can have a very poor inflection when you're comparing your own everyday life to it. But to serve as that catalogue for yourself, I think that's very valuable and useful. So that's why I continue to use it and download it in times when it's very intentional, and it's to document things that I would like to remember and be able to turn back to and reflect upon in the future. Whether I'll continue to do that moving forward, I don't know. I'll just have to see. I will say that my usage has gotten increasingly more and more sporadic and spaced out over time. I'm very rarely on it throughout the year, so I think if that continues, then it's likely that it could just blip into oblivion, but we'll see. I think I quite enjoy the likes of YouTube a lot more because it's more personal and intimate, and I like to record videos. I have my camcorder, which I'm filming on now, and I take that with me pretty much everywhere I go. If I'm hanging out with friends or going to a gig to see live music, or traveling. So I think YouTube is a great space to share that video format, and it's a lot more immersive versus just static images through the likes of Instagram. In terms of social media, I only ever really use Instagram anyways. I hate Facebook, and TikTok is not something that I could ever get behind. I'm just glad to have been born before all of that really blew up and became super ingrained from a young age. I'm Gen Z, so 2002. I was there for the rise of Musical.ly, but only on the fringes, so I think I sort of just missed the TikTok age, which is great. Very happy about that one. But yeah, to bring it back to using a dumb phone, if you are someone who is considering it, I would say go for it. I found that everyone's been very understanding and even encouraging. In terms of limitations as to adopting it, the biggest barrier I would say is the fact that there is a lot of dependence on being able to do your second what is it, second form of verification when you're logging into websites and things, especially for work. That was one thing. I had to go see my IT guy, and he laughed. He thought it was hilarious and told me to get a new phone, but then we found workarounds, and there are ways to work around it. I find that the most frequent one that I encounter is for Google, but you can still verify through text. And I don't think they will be able to change that, because there's still a significant portion of people, I think of the older generations, who use non-smartphones or aren't as well versed in them. So as long as that's the case, I don't think we'll move to a full digitalized verification methodology, so that's good. And then in terms of things like Google Maps for navigation, and if you need to bank on the go, I always just make sure that I'm covered for whatever could arise during the day. And then if I need to go somewhere that I haven't been before, I can take photos on this. So I'll get the map on my iPad before I leave the house, take photos of the route and any like buses, because I don't drive either, so I have to use public transport. And then if something happens throughout the day, or say a bus doesn't show up on time, then that is when I will phone a friend. Usually I start with my family. If they don't pick up, then I call one of my good friends, and they navigate remotely for me, and it's quite funny. I think most people find it quite humorous, and they're always willing to help, which is nice. But yeah, those are probably the two biggest ones that are tricky to navigate. But yeah, otherwise it's very low cost. This phone cost me $50. I didn't even buy it, actually. My dad gave it to me, but it costs $50. So if you are even considering just trialing, I think it's it's worth the investment, because I believe within a week you'd feel the difference, and it would be a positive one. I don't think you would feel the trade-offs that you make in moving to a dumb phone versus a smartphone there's so many more benefits than what you lose access to. I think, especially if that's a goal of yours, is to become less chronically online, or reduce the hold of social media on your attention span. I would highly recommend just trialing it, and I think you'll find that you won't go back. But yeah, those are, I think, all the key points that I have to share. Obviously it has been a long time that I've been using this, and it just feels like second nature now. I have no desire to move back to a smartphone. When I go traveling and I use a smartphone, I instantly feel the difference, and I hate it. It makes my brain feel more claustrophobic, because it's so crowded with all of this extra information that's just being inundated with all the time, that I really don't need to be engaging with to go about my day. And having all of that information at my fingertips at all times, it's so tempting to then just delve in and be constantly stimulated. You lose that sense of calm, mental peace, because where I would usually be mulling things over in my thoughts, I then externalize that, and I'm on the internet searching things and answering my questions externally. So yes, that is all I have to say. I will try and keep this video up. We'll see how that goes. And thank you for tolerating my sketchy setup. But yeah, if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer, because I think this is a very important point of discussion, and I think it's really encouraging to see that there are so many people who are looking to move away from being so chronically online. And I know there's always this huge sense of irony for people who upload these kinds of videos, because we're uploading on YouTube, it's the online space, and we're feeding into the problem itself. But as I said, I quite like YouTube because it is more intimate and it is a forum for discussion. It stimulates, I think, a lot of good constructive conversation versus other forms of social media where there isn't so much a platform for they're more geared towards those quick bursts of dopamine and attention grabbing rather than that long form actual sharing of information. Anyways, that is all. I will be using YouTube to post both video, like camcorder footage, like snippets of my life and my friends and everything that I've been up to, but also I would like to use it to discuss stuff that I've been engaging with outside of the internet, such like books that I'm reading because I love reading, and then movies and things that I enjoy and find interesting. So if that is of interest to you, stick around. Otherwise, I'd love to hear your thoughts on